This video has been sponsored by Skillshare. The first 500 of you to click the link in the description will get the first 2 months for free.
The XR's cooling system may have been good enough for the desert, but this is Texas and it's really hot, so we're gonna upgrade everything.
Got, bigger radiators, fans, different thermostats, hoses, cool colored hoses, because those add all kinds of power.
But first, power boom. Definitely wasn't happy with those headers. I figured I'd have to run them for at least a little while and I'd replace them eventually. But I couldn't sleep at night. Picked up this power boom. So I'm gonna throw that on real fast. Fortunately, I don't know if we're gonna be able to reuse this heat shield. They were very clever how they advertised this thing when I bought it. They didn't have a very good picture of this angle right here. Don't buy this cheapo one. It's a few more bucks for this one. High temp RTV. Stock radiators were all bent up and twisted, so we needed to replace them. The OEM ones, you'll see these aftermarket ones that are oversized. Those are like all gonna cost you around like $500 flipping dollars for some radiators. These ones, kind of knockoffs, are like way cheaper, like the cheapest option by a long shot. But when you read reviews about them, people have used them, they say they work. They hold, a good bit more fluid. I don't know if they actually even give the specs on there, but they're way wider than the stock ones. They're also pretty strong. I mean, they're like got this big boxed aluminum going all the way around. And the left side one here, we're gonna have to kind of mock it up into place here. Mock it up, mark it up, mark it up. And then we're gonna actually have to get the tank on here and the shroud. We have to line up. There's a fan that we're gonna put in here. We gotta kind of figure out where we're gonna place the fan. And once we know where it's all sitting, we should be able to mark some spots on here. The outside of this is a big heavy piece of like aluminum. So my goal is actually mark this thing where I'm gonna put the fans, some of those Trail Tech fans, and drill some holes in this very carefully. Again, the outside one doesn't have any water flowing through them. I'm gonna tap them, and we'll actually be able to bolt the fan directly on here. We just have to do that very gently so we don't poke holes in the inner ones. That's why I didn't throw all this stuff away yet, because you got these little things here, and yeah, I could have popped these off. It should be pretty obvious where they go, but sometimes it's just easier to leave all this stuff around until you're ready to stick it where it goes. I can use a little gentle persuasion. Clean it with WD-40, so not only is it cleaned, it should help it pop in a little easier. Again, I'm gonna use a little gentle persuasion, but try to be even more gentle because this is the radiator we actually want to keep and use. Gotta be real careful with the radiators. I mean, just showing you here on one like this, and just your fingernail can like fold these fins. You can't like put the radiators completely on without like the hoses like at least kind of connected. You just will not be able to get them all done. So that means I need to start messing with things like this. I just clean this up a little bit. This is the thermostat. You can give it a little wipe down here. Good thing this bike does have a thermostat. Like my WR450, for instance, didn't have one, so the bike would take a long time to warm up and then would actually run too cool, like if I only rode it on a day like today. So I'm sure this is the original thermostat. Even if you just replace it with another stock one, that'd probably be a good idea. But I think the thermostat on this bike is like a 200 degree or something. It's kind of a high thermostat. There it goes. The 180 degree would probably be a little bit better. You don't want to go crazy low. I mean, they do manufacture those at a certain temperature cylinder thing. One specific for that bike, they're like 50 bucks or something. I found this one for $8 online, and I found this out from searching the web. Apparently this is the trick thing to do, is you get one from a Suzuki Swift, which is what this is. This is a 180 degree one, and it's got a whole fail-safe thing in there too. When I went and bought this on Amazon, I went down to the reviews, and people were like, there was multiple people like, yep, bought this from my XR650R, it's awesome. Only difference between the two of them, the Honda one has this little wheat pole in it, and this one doesn't. So we need to drill a small hole in the outside edge of this one to kind of match that one. The wheat pole was kind of over towards this corner right here. So we probably need to put a little wheat pole about here. I don't know if it's super important that it's in the exact same spot. I don't see any corresponding anything on the inside, but regardless, I'll eventually find the beginning of the tape. Why not make it so it's, it's very similar. Flipping professional grade stuff, boys. I've got just the lip of it pinched in here, not real tight. I don't want to like push on this really hard while I'm doing it. I'm just gonna try to ease my way into this. This drill bit seems to be about the right size. Wheat pole, police are coming. If you're gonna have one that completely dams it, what you want to see is a small bypass line that comes out of here and just bypasses the radiators. Once it actually opens, that bypass is still also open. Now the idea is they would make the bypass line really small, so hopefully the main flow would still go through the radiators, but you're kind of like cheating your radiators a little bit with a bypass line. So a small wheat pole lets the fluid keep flowing through here, so the hot fluid will still make it here and open the thermostat when it's needed. It's a good idea. It's a good way to do it if you're going to have an external thermostat like this. Very nice. You get like a pack of hoses like this, for instance. They're all just kind of in the box. It doesn't say this one goes here, this one goes there. They probably assume you're going to go and replace them one at a time. So I had to kind of half dummy everything up real quick and be like, that's the way it goes. Because there will be a few that always kind of look real similar to one another. Now I know which way they go, I can kind of start popping it together. One thing about these colored hoses, you see from me just handling them, they're going to get like discolored really fast, but they clean up really well. So I wouldn't sweat that too hard if you're like, oh no. And I wouldn't make any of these tight yet. I'm just going to like run it down so it's not just flopping around loose, but like there's a good chance you'll have to kind of twist and manipulate these just a little bit. Later on when we add the dual sport kit, I'm gonna have to add a sensor in here, which means I'm gonna have to cut a little section out right here. We'll lose a little bit of the coolant. You know, I'll probably lay the bike on its side so we don't lose a lot. I have the kit here right now, and it's best just to go ahead and fill it. We'll run it, we'll do some stuff. We'll get the bike running in the next few episodes. There's so many things all happening on this bike that you kind of want to stage things, I think, a little bit. If you just go too hard, like I'm gonna do everything in one go, so the first time you start it, it's all good to go. You have so many things you may have to troubleshoot. Tuck under like so. Put this radiator on here. I'm not gonna try hooking all the hoses up. This is just so we can figure out where the fan has to go. We'll have to take this all back off. This is the old one I don't care about, so I'm gonna manhandle it here in a minute. The one screw in here so we can kind of pivot this out of the way. I don't actually know if I can slip it in here now that I've got it up here. I think I can figure it out. It's gonna need to sit about like that. Like a ruler or something with a straight edge. Although I don't need to actually use the level function of it right now. I'd say go from this bolt across. I need a mark on here. Gotta take all this back off and take this radiator off. Stuck my my cardboard from my thermostat in here just to give it a little bit of space up. I'm lining my holes up with my line I made right here. I need to make my marks. I'm giving you just a little bit of room in here because I know you're probably an idiot and you might screw this up. So we have to drill into the side here. I'm gonna wear my glasses. Obviously it's very critical we only go a little bit into this. I also gotta make sure I'm drilling this really straight because we're gonna tap it here in a minute. Yeah, we're gonna be in there. Very important that we hold this incredibly straight because if we get it off, that's the angle our screws get going. This being aluminum is really easy to cut too. These little grooves in the tap will let the excess pieces out, but you need to go forward and back off a little bit every once in a while. Probably the drill bit I use is probably a pinch too small, but that's fine with me because again we're going into aluminum. It's really easy to cut, and I'd rather these threads be as thick as I can get them. You know, as much meat on them as I can. Yeah, I'm not all the way through, but that's good. That's good. Now I just gotta make sure when you stick something back in, you almost sometimes can spin it backwards, see if you can find the same thread you're in. Just gotta be real careful. There it goes, I grabbed it. Just gotta make sure you're not cutting a new thread when you do that. Feel pretty good, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
It's a bit stressful, but I got one done. I gotta do 3 more. This is not a beer kind of drinking job. You gotta pay attention when you're doing this, so I'm gonna get to that. All right, all 4 holes are drilled, tapped, looking good. Before I set this fan though in there, there's this little probe. This is gonna tell the fan when to turn on and off. Cool thing about this fan is once you feed it 12-volt power, you program when you want it to come on and off at, and it takes care of itself using this little probe here. But this probe is slightly too thick to fit between the fins of our radiator here, so I need to dremel it down just a pinch. I've got some washers I'm going to put between it and the radiator. I'm going to Loctite them all down. My third hand. Alright, I got it in there now. Right, they're all in. These screws are going into aluminum. Not very much. There's no reason to like crank them down. Nice. They give you a little pack of thermal paste. Anyone who's built a computer knows about this stuff. Squish a little onto this.
Move it up.
I guess so. There's a good spot for it. Sometimes you take these zip ties and put like a crease in them like this.
So you can go around the bend?
Yeah, it really will help you out. And of course the part that's got a bend in it, we're going to cut off anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Perfect! Just sticking all the hoses on now. This one's being a little stiff, so you can take stuff like this and just get into your coolant. We're using some of that engine ice stuff here because that'll help lubricate it a bit. All right, so I've got all the hoses and clamps in place. This is the tricky bit where you got to make like 20 things kind of line up at once. Try not to bend the little fins as you do this. There it goes. Aftermarket radiators, aftermarket hoses. I was expecting a much bigger fight, but that actually went pretty easy. With the fan on here now, you really can't get to this bolt very good, so it's gonna be very tedious to tighten it up. But you know, this isn't a bolt that has to come on and off every day, so it is what it is. Better to have a fan than to have ease to tighten your bolt, I suppose. Pretty happy with the way the fan installed. You know, I think having the oversized radiators actually made it more possible. I guess you could have tried to do that with the stamped side here, but it's just way thinner. I mean, I guess this does have like a place to mount a fan, although I don't know what fan kit fits that. I could not find one online. Important thing to do now is to set the temperature on it. It's pretty easy to do. The thermostat's a 180. We'll set this at like 185 or something. Wait a second. Okay, I think we're good. This is where the power would actually connect in, and they give you this cable here. It's all fused up and everything. I've got a test battery I just use to test things. So I want to hook this up to it, and I want to get a heat gun and put it on that sensor because, I don't know, I want to see if it'll turn on. All right, turns out my test battery, I probably haven't charged that thing in like a year, and it's definitely dead. So I'll just do the next best thing. I need 12 volt power. The FZ07's got some 12 volt power, so I've rigged up a temporary thing here. Don't worry, there's fuses and electrical tape. It's not going to blow anything up. Who even needs a 12 volt system? I'll just have my FZ come ride with me every time I get someone to ride it. As long as we stay this close to each other, we'll be fine. I'm gonna be running a extension cord with this heat gun. If you're gonna do this, you have to have a gnarly extension cord. Put this thing on the medium here. Let's see what we can make happen. Why isn't the fan come on? I kept plugging in the power and was popping the fuses right away, and I thought, am I an idiot? So if I plug into the electronics right here and I check for resistance across this, I'm getting a 0, which means that there's an internal short in this fan. At least I didn't start filling it with coolant. I was actually gonna do that because now I'm probably gonna have to pull this fan back off. I'm gonna definitely have to pull this fan back off, which means I have to pull this radiator back off.
Hey, we got an update to the story. So actually, I called Trail Tech. It said, hey, this is what's going on. And it turns out the fan wasn't broken. We tested a couple things, and what's really wrong with it is that little digital sensor thing. So they're sending me a new one. I don't have to take the whole thing apart. That can actually pop out. We directly connected the fan, and it turns on. So they're super cool. They're sending me a new one, so it won't be a big deal. And, you know, I think it's important to note that, like, I didn't call them and say, hey, I'm Jake the Garden Snake. You better fix it. Like, I just called them as a normal customer, and they took care of me. So, you know, sometimes things go wrong, and, you know, they take care of it. That's what's important.
Sorry for the echoey sounds in here, but this is what's been delaying the videos. That's this is the house I bought. There's been a lot preparing this, getting ready for this, trying to convince Underwriter that YouTube is a real job. That's some of the reason we've seen some delays in the videos. Things should start getting back to a regular routine here real soon. I do want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video and supporting creators like me. Skillshare is an online community with over 25,000 classes for creators. So that's stuff that directly helps people like me and a lot of you out there trying to do the same thing. Premium membership gives you access to all those classes. We got classes in like video editing, for instance. That was something that took me a long time to learn. I would have been really grateful to have something like Skillshare back then when you just had to kind of muddle your way through it. I had a number of classes on things like social media marketing, which is really important to creators like myself. When you talk to traditional marketing people, they don't quite understand the social media marketing. It's a whole new game, and they've got a ton of classes on this. Some of these classes are just a few hours long. You can knock them out real quick, and some of them are more in depth. And that's the thing with Skillshare. You can use this as like something for just a hobby. You just want to learn about it for the sake of learning about it for your own fun, or take it all up to the point of saying, hey, I want a career out of this. I want this to be what I do for a living. The first 500 of you, though, that click the link in the description, and don't think it's already been done. It might not have been. Go check out the link in the description because you get the first 2 months for free. They do have annual subscriptions for only $10 a month. That's a really great plan. Like I said, you get those first 2 months for free, and you can knock out a bunch of those classes in the first 2 months. So if you're interested in becoming a creator, you need these skills, you want to be your own boss, you absolutely need to click that link in the description and go check out Skillshare.